Good morning. In Soil and Water Conservation Engineering, the Unit 5 deals with reservoir sedimentation and sediment control methods. At first, reservoir sedimentation, which means the sedimentation which occurs in reservoir. At a reservoir may broadly defined as artificially created water storage basins. In that, the storage capacity that may ranges a few thousand cubic meter to thousand of million cubic meters, and the reservoir may classified into three types, which is on depending upon the purpose of storage. At first, storage and conservation reservoir, flood control reservoir, and distribution reservoirs. And next, the sedimentation reservoirs. Actually, the sedimentation which occurs in reservoir is mainly due to the river, and the river which may carry some amount of sediment which is settled on the river beds. That's it. Next is the construction of reservoir blocks, which is a flow of sediments which occurs in the downstream because the increased sediment build up in the reservoirs. Next one, while the rate of sedimentation varies for each reservoirs and each river, which is based on their size of the river, size of the capacity of the reservoir, and so on. And what are the indicators which indicates the reservoir sediments? At first, the reservoir storage capacity relative to the mean annual volume of rainfall. Next one, maximum width of the reservoir relative to the maximum width of upstream river channels. Next one, maximum depth of the reservoir and relative to the maximum depth of the river channel, which means the reservoir and the river channel is directly proportional to H1. Next, the reservoir storage capacity related to mean annual sediment load, which I already know. Next, the concentration of sediments and heavy metals being supplied from the watershed which is flowing through the river and which is accumulated in the reservoir as a reservoir sediments. Next one, reservoir sediment trap efficiency. Trap, which means which trap the water and the sediments in the rivers. Next one, the reservoir sedimentation depends upon the trap efficiency, which decides the amount of sediment deposited within the reservoir. It is a ratio of sediment retained in the reservoir to the sediment inflow into the reservoir, and on which the how amount of reservoir sediment occur in the reservoir, and the trap efficiency is directly proportional. Next, which is also depends upon the fall velocity of various sediments, particles, flow rate, velocity through the reservoir, as well as the size, depth, and shape. Next one, the water viscosity also play an important role because the viscosity of water is a main role playing in river as well as in reservoirs. Next, the forms of sediment transport. At first, the sediment may be formed on bed load. Bed load, which means already know material that moves along the bottom of the channel, which is by saltation and rolling processes. As the result, shear stress created by the vertical velocity gradient in the stream flow. Next one is suspended load. Suspended load, which is we know the particle which are in suspension state is known as suspended load. Next one is wash load. Wash load, which means the very fine materials which is suspended on the uppermost layer of the river, which means the wash load. Next, what are all the impacts of reservoir sedimentation? Which reduce the capacity of the storage of water in the reservoir. Next, decrease the ability to produce hydroelectric power, as we know. Next one, reduce availability of water for irrigation, shortening the life of reservoirs.